Hello and welcome again to another amazing episode in the Craft Your Future podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Christopher Nyalwal, and I'm excited to bring you fresh content. We usually tend to talk about many conversations, but today we're going to be talking about business and going global. And I'm excited for our guest today. Our guest today is a man who has done exactly what you're talking about. He has built a business that is global, and we're going to be just discussing the ins and outs of it. What is required for such a business? What is the kind of decision making that he undergoes? What kind of risks are there involved? What kind of mindset do you need to have? How does your structures and your systems need to be in place? What kind of structure and systems need to be in place for you to operate a global business? Now, we are having onset, none other than Joram Mwinamo. And just to introduce him properly, I'll just read a brief about his work. Now, Joram Mwinamo is the global CEO of Sandbox International. It's a leading entrepreneurship support organization with operations in Atlanta, USA, Ethiopia, Kenya, and I'm sure he'll add on because I know this business is always evolving. Now, he's an award-winning leader recognized among the top 50 most influential CEOs in Kenya. Now, he has devoted his career to fostering small and medium-sized enterprises, that is SMEs, worldwide. Now, he has over 20 years of strategic planning experience. He co-founded Sandbox, making it a global beacon of sustainable entrepreneurship. And what an amazing bio this is. Welcome, Joram, and maybe just say hi and add on any other business or different country that you've grown into.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, first and foremost. It's a pleasure to be here. What you've read is true. I'm the CEO of Sandbox International, a company that we actually started in 2020. Although it's not my first business, it's a second one. First one was called Wild International, which did something similar but on a much smaller scale. So we set up the Sandbox model because we thought we could build something more unique by bringing other experts on board. And so that's what I've been doing. Currently 12 countries and counting.
Wow.
So I don't know if I can go through the entire list. But 10 of those in Africa.
So maybe which continents to summarize them?
So definitely 10 of those are in Africa.
Okay.
So we've been able to get partnerships across the African continent from down in South Africa, up all the way to Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana. Then, of course, in East Africa, we have partners in all the East African countries, Ethiopia included. And then outside of that, we have UK and US, Atlanta, as you mentioned. And hopefully we add one more country in Europe. I think my focus is now shifting to the places where we are not, which is Middle East and Asia and South America. We had started some conversations there, but not yet materialized, but we are looking forward to doing so.
And I'm just listening to you, and I'm just like, this is just a Kenyan like me.
Yes.
You know, I'm like, this guy's talking about working in the Middle East, setting up companies in the Middle East. And I'm just trying to think, many entrepreneurs, we dream about starting businesses that are global.
Yes.
And it ends at that. It's a dream.
Yeah.
What do you think stops many of us from, doing it?
Yeah. I think the whole question of doing global business from within Africa, I've been listening to a couple of podcasts and I think it's something that's gaining more traction. But I think our culturing as we grew up was probably that if you're going to do anything big, the biggest you can probably do is the whole of Africa. And so I think a lot of us, when we build businesses, we keep thinking, because this is a place we are familiar with, to some extent, there could be some very flawed mindsets around that we can't do business beyond there because it's more developed. Our history, we've seen companies coming here when they're already big and that kind of stuff. So I think we're just not cultured to think of ourselves as people building global businesses because it looks too hard, it looks too complicated. And so a lot of people just set their sights on Africa because that feels familiar. But I think my experience has been very different. I think you can do it anywhere and just figure it out. If anything, to some extent, it is probably easier to do business in Europe, US, and other places than it is here in terms of things work. The barriers that you'll face going into a lot of African countries, you will not face in many other parts of the world. There'll be different things to learn, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of places where it is just very straightforward to register the business, to get it going. You're dealing with people on the ground who know there's consequences if they do illegal things. So, you're likely to find people who are a lot more ethical or at least afraid of the law, and therefore they'll do the right thing through and through. So I think it's just the fact that we've not interacted with this,
global,
the global landscape, that we've not understood that it's not as difficult as we think.
Do you think the fact that we refer to ourselves as third world has a big thing to do with it?
Yeah,
because we tend to think we can't even offer anything out there.
And a lot of it maybe comes starting from our education sector. Things that now I look in hindsight and I think are by design. If you think about all the education you went through and all the history you learned, it had more to do with people coming into Africa and taking us over than us going elsewhere and taking them over. Now, history exists that actually people from West Africa conquered Spain and that area for a very long time. You had different forms of Africans going to different parts of the world, and that's why you find, history of dark people in even places that are not Africa. But it's because they went there and, patched themselves there and that kind of thing. But all our history taught us that the discoverers, the people doing conquests and all sorts of things were European.
Coming into
Africa to take us over. And there's also a section of our history that paints it that we did not invent, we did not discover, we did not create, which is again not true. And I think if you go through a system that is continuously painting you as the one who was taken over, enslaved, colonized, you get to believe it, and then maybe you lose the self-belief that you can play at an equal space as all the others who seemingly came and took you over. So I think that has a lot to do with that mindset of us seeing ourselves as inferior, as maybe not being able to play on a global scale. I think it's changing a lot now because there's a lot more information coming out independently that counters some of that narrative that we grew up with. And I think it's now opening up people's minds to, we can do this thing ourselves.
Can do this. So in your context, because you've grown up using the same education system, you've grown up in Kenya, you studied in Kenya. At which point did your mindset shift, or what unlocked this for you to say that I'm going to start a business and it's not going to be just contained within my space?
Within my space. I think it's that, as a teenager, I started to expose myself to reading a lot of stuff, maybe a lot of the self-help books and things that would tell you can do everything possible. And
which book did it for you?
there were quite a number. I mean, whether it was the Stephen Covey's or the Anthony Robbins, but the one that did it for me was Ben Carson, because he was black like me, but he was a leading neurosurgeon in the US and globally. Actually used to be called all over the world to go and do those separation surgeries for the brain. And so that's the first thing that showed me, if a black man can do this globally, then I can possibly also achieve whatever it is that I wanted to achieve. And so I think that kicked off a curiosity around, then why is Africa the way it is? It got me curious about reading a lot of alternative African history, so not the textbooks that we read in school, but I just started to come across different authors who would describe the history of Africa in a very different way from how I'd read it in school. And I would begin to realize, Africans were inventors, Africans were discoverers. They were also, they also went on conquests. Like they played at the same league as everyone else in the world was doing. It is arguable that until today, the wealthiest man ever was an African, which is Mansa Musa from the Mali Kingdom. And I'm like, I didn't see this history growing up. So that's what made me curious around why was it removed from our history books in primary and high school.
That's a big fact.
And so when I started to come across this information is when I started to think, okay, somebody tried to shape my narrative to make me think less of myself. So I'm going to break myself out of that. And I think as I interacted with more of that information, then I started to ask myself, how is it that other people around the world are able to build businesses, and when they start it, when they're American, when they're European, when they're Chinese, they start it with a global mindset. But us guys here are only thinking probably your country at most, or Africa.
Not even country. We just want to pay our small bills.
You just want to pay bills, And so that now sparked my curiosity on what does it take for a company to grow and scale. Of course, all the work I'd been doing until then was consultancy, helping other businesses put structures and processes and things in place. And for a lot of us clients who are working with, we would actually see them start to grow and scale. And so I would just project that, look, if this person has grown and now they're doing business in Uganda, Tanzania, and the like, then if you continue that process, you will end up everywhere in the world. Like, if you're able to do it here, nothing stops you. I think my earlier career as well, because I got a chance to work internationally briefly before I came back to run my business. So I spent time in Norway and interacting with the Europeans, and I say this with no malice, they were no smarter than we are. So that, for me, got me thinking it's not about intellect. This thing is not beyond reach because of intellect, is not beyond reach because of some special things. There are just certain things they have access to and that they do in their businesses that help them to go global. And I was like, if I come back and do the same to my business in Africa, what stops us from, being able to achieve the same? So that would drive me to then study, what does it take to open a business in the US? What does it take to open a business in Europe? Because I'm like, are there any restrictions against Africans owning business? No, none at all. Same laws that apply to everyone else. Same
registration process.
It's the same for everyone around the world. So the same way a Chinese business would open a business in the US, or vice versa, a US business opening a business in China or Europe, we have access to the same thing. It's more expensive and all sorts of things. Of course, when you're converting Kenyan money to those kind of jurisdictions, it can tend to lose a bit of value, but the processes are all the same and we are subject to the same laws. So so the only barrier now remains in our minds if we want to do it. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, first, it has to start with the individual.
Yes.
Because you have to kind of become a different kind of person. What kind of disciplines would you have to, develop as an individual? What kind of, in terms of risk, understanding yourself, your risk tolerance, understanding your decision making has to change, and especially when you don't have all the information. How did you get through that? Because in a different country, there's so much there's unknown. How do you handle that?
I think it's a thing of maybe building confidence on a growing scale. So of course our business started here in Kenya, and I did run the first business for a very long time, from 2007 to around 2019 before we set up Sandbox. And so I'd had a lot of experience building a business in Kenya. From Kenya, we had gotten the opportunity and contracts that allowed us to do business in places like Mozambique. We had clients from South Africa, Nigeria, and we traveled to these places and delivered work. And the clients in those places would appreciate what it is that we had, which was kind of, on a small scale, a signal that what it is that we're doing here in Kenya is relevant, across the board. Down the line, I've been roped into certain roles. Like I was once a mentor for a program that was based in Europe, and it had both European and African businesses in that program. And I was a mentor for both European and African businesses. And again, I'd get feedback from those entrepreneurs that, in fact, I remember this program used to have like a 2-week residency in Berlin, where all the entrepreneurs would come and all the mentors would be there. And we were mentors from different countries, from Israel, from Europe, from the US. And so I was a mentor just like they were. And as the days would go by, word would get round that I'm actually a very good advisor. And so you'd have more and more people, even from the European businesses, booking time with me just for me to help them think through their business and that kind of thing. And so I think those experiences are what would build my confidence on an increasing scale, because maybe you'd come thinking, okay, maybe I can only advise businesses in Kenya, but then I'm given a business in Mozambique. We go through a consulting process, and they appreciate it, and you see changes in positive changes in their business. I do the same with a business based off Nigeria. In fact, there was one client that we were contracted to do some strategy work for. It's a Pan-African organization called AfriLabs. We did the strategy around 2014-15. That time they were much smaller. Today they have members in 53 out of 54 African countries. And a lot of that growth strategy came from the advice that we gave them. So these kind of things where you deal with clients in different countries and you're able to see them grow similarly to Kenyan businesses I've advised is what would now get me start thinking, maybe I'm not just a Kenyan advisor, I'm not just Pan-African, but I can actually do this thing globally. So wherever I've interacted with people and advise them on their businesses, we've been able to have similar output, and that just grew my confidence that, this thing can be done globally. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, there's a Kenyan who's watching this this episode, and they're wondering, okay, I want to get there, but I don't know how to get there. And in your experience, you've worked with so many, small and medium-sized businesses. Yeah. What are some of the things you see in those businesses that are limiting them from growth?
I would say there are many things. I'll try and maybe narrow them down to the key things. First is starting with the end in mind.
Okay.
Like if as an entrepreneur, you don't have an end goal of what you're building, then you end up tagging onto everything that comes your way. They say if you don't have a clear destination, any road, makes sense type of thing. And so I think the fact that a lot of people are running businesses, but maybe they don't have a clear vision of where it is that they want to take it. Even if you just want to say, maybe you want to become the best in Nairobi or in Kenya or, in Africa or something, having an end goal tags your mind to what does that picture look like? So when I say I want to become a Pan-African business, then I start to think, okay, what does it take to do business in Senegal? What does it take to do business in Nigeria? What does it take to do business in Tunisia or South Africa? And your mind opens up to maybe those kind of curiosities. So now when you see an article from South Africa, you're curious. You're like, what's going on in the business environment in South Africa? You see an article from, so I'm subscribed to quite a number of Pan-African, can you say like newsletters and like there's quite a number that, whether it's Africa Report and those kinds of things, because I'm genuinely curious about what's happening in other countries. And then when I travel to any of these countries, I'll also be curious, are there any business magazines from that country? Are there things I can just get up to speed with? I remember I was recently in Ethiopia, and the hotel I was in had there's a business magazine from Ethiopia. I think by the time I left, I'd read all of them because I was curious around what are these reforms happening in Ethiopia, what changes are happening. They had stories about what the central bank is doing to the currency, the big projects government is investing in. So now I've just become curious. I'm quite subscribed to a couple of small business and business magazines in Atlanta, like online. So every country we go to, I start to subscribe to stuff there, and they'll pop up on my feeds, and I'll be able to tell something that's happening. So I'll see a news article, and then I'll get curious, and maybe I'll read one or two others. So already, because my mind is set to wanting to do things globally, I then tag onto opportunities. I meet somebody from a specific country. I'm curious, how can this help
get
our
as much
business
information as you can.
Yesterday, somebody visited our office from London, and they are an expert. And they didn't know we have a branch in London. And so, of course, I'm connecting her back to the London people and saying, when she comes back, please have a conversation and see if you can onboard her as a sandbox expert. Something like that wouldn't have made sense to me before if I did not have that activity happening there.
Wow.
So now it's almost like I've had this joke that when you're a pregnant woman, you start to notice all the other pregnant women around. It's like if you're going through something, you start to notice the same, a bit more enhanced.
Yes.
And so that's the case. Like nowadays, if I see any story that has anything to do with Atlanta, I'm curious. I want to read. I want to know what's happening there. The Olympics is happening there this year. If it will happen, there's a lot of anxiety around it and the whole Trump thing. People are canceling bookings. But as a result, there are certain things happening in Atlanta which I start to ask myself, is that an opportunity for our Atlanta office to tag on to? So I'm very globally curious nowadays about somewhere where we are going to. And if I meet people from those countries as well, now I'm very curious.
Okay.
Do you know, like, somebody who runs entrepreneurship programs in your country? Can you do me an introduction? And I talk to them and see if they're a potential partner. It's because I'm open to it. So you have to have the vision. I think you have to have the openness to learning more. More importantly, I think you have to be ready to fail a lot and make a lot of mistakes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Which I think I've built a lot of muscle making mistakes in Kenya. and losing money and all sorts of things that now I'm like, I can reach at a Pan-African and global level. So even in a lot of the areas we've gone to, maybe we've started with somebody who wasn't the best suited, and then we start to learn. Maybe we start with the experts are not the best at the first, but because we are plugged in and we are consistently on that agenda, we keep looking for more and more networks that can guide us to the right things. And then you just learn from the lessons. You're like, okay, maybe before we do the next country, we need to have a better due diligence process. Look into this, that, and the other, because we, got burnt in Tulichomeka in that previous country. This profile of person seems to be doing a better job than another. In fact, I got into this principle where I say, you fail quickly at scale. When I have 12 countries give me feedback about what's working and what's not, it's easier to pick a pattern than me saying, this year we're only going to do South Africa. So if it goes wrong, we will learn about what went wrong, but we won't learn about what went right. But when we have 12 countries, we maybe have, more data points from the different countries where we are able to tell this is a pattern.
So do you use different approaches in the different countries?
Different approaches in different countries, but also now certain things become a trend in terms of this profile of person works, these kinds of projects are opportunities, so you pick out patterns when I think you do things more at scale. And so I always tell people, don't just do a single experiment, having multiple experiments at once, because you see if you fail, then you think there's something you're doing wrong. But if out of 12, 6 are working out and 6 are not, then you look for patterns. And you get some confidence that it's not me who's failing. It's something that's not working in that environment. So if I just get that thing right, then it will work. Because it's working in all these others and they're different environments. So it means this is the thing that's core about our business that works in every location that we go to. And so, so we just have like a leaderboard of what's working and what's not, the kind of people to look for. And with every experience, we improve what we do for the next country. So now we're at a 12. Definitely when we go into a 13th, we are probably looking at a lot more detailed stuff than what we looked at for the first person, because we've learned from all these 12 countries in terms of what works and what doesn't.
So in terms of, you've said be ready to fail.
Yes,
that's the only way you will. That's the only way you will get better.
Yes.
But now the question is, at which point do you decide that now it's time to scale to another country? That kind of thing. Because as a business, I've started in Kenya.
Yes.
Maybe I want to establish myself. Maybe I want to do 10 years.
Yes.
Is it, should I wait 10 years? Or should I then start in year 2 and say, since my vision is global, maybe I start trying out new things? What's your advice on that?
I think there are 2 things that would be important. Number one, do you have a product you're selling that is relevant beyond just your local environment? So the business you're running has products and services. And are you doing a good job even in your primary market? Like nowadays, I keep reminding my team, if we can't even do it here in Kenya with people who are right under our noses, how are you going to do it with somebody who is in Brazil or somewhere else? So first and foremost is to make sure you're doing a good job here. You're doing a good job here at home or where close to you. And as you perfect that, then you start to look at where else is this needed?
Mm-hmm.
With Sandbox, we realized that this model of a one-stop shop of, I just realized I didn't even describe what that is. So our business, what we have is that we've brought non-competing experts under one roof.
Okay.
So you come to one location, you find we have a lawyer, we have a marketer, we have a HR, we have a tech advisor, we have insurance, we have 32 non-competing experts under one roof. Each of them is their own independent business, but they sign a contract with Sandbox that they'll be the official provider of that service in this location under Sandbox. So that's the model we've built. And when we finished building it, we realized no one else in the world is doing it. And it's been 6 years and we still can't find anyone else in the world doing something similar. So that was the first sign of maybe this can work elsewhere. You know, if it's so unique that we can't find it anywhere in the world and the same entrepreneurs exist, they're looking for these services. So maybe we can introduce this service to other parts of the world. So that was the first step. And so I'd say if you're an entrepreneur, you have a product, you have a service, it's working well here in Kenya, you fine-tuned it, but the same problem exists, say, in other African countries, but also maybe if you look across to India, you look to Indonesia, you look to China, you look to South America, Europe, the same problem exists. Then you'd find that that is maybe an initial signal that your product can work there. It's very interesting that mobile money was invented here in Kenya and grew. And it is maybe 10 years later that you have mobile money taking off in the US. So it tells you that if Safaricom had been globally
positioned like
and aggressive, because I think there's maybe a lot of mistakes that happened in that journey that you find that even the largest mobile money network in Africa today is MTN. It's not the Vodafone network, which backs Safaricom. It means somebody there was maybe not ambitious enough to think this thing can actually go global, because now you have things like cheaper cash in the US and Apple Pay and whatever. These are mobile-based payment systems, which is what we've had for over 10 years. So it tells you that maybe, you know, if an entrepreneur who was globally minded had thought of this thing can actually also work in the US. Because we have this notion that something that's working in Africa is not maybe relevant. It is.
Or it's a lower model.
It is quite relevant. There's a company here in Kenya that's little known. It's called Craft Silicon. And they built banking systems for microfinance. And I do understand that at some point, there are microfinance entities like in the US, in all over the place. So yes, it probably took off a bit faster in developing countries. But eventually, they were getting very small whatevers that are serving poor people, say in New York and that kind of thing, looking towards their system. So sometimes we underestimate that a problem that you've solved here, you think it still doesn't exist in the West because they are too developed. It's not true. It's probably... In fact, you're likely to do better there because there's higher spending power, there's maybe more access to credit, there's easier access to investment and all these sorts of things. So a lot of us just don't think about it, and so we don't go looking for how we can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how we have such limited mindsets when it comes to what can we do and who can we reach.
Yes.
So I want to speak about, you know, you've spoken a bit about, you know, doing your research, the way you talk about, you know, be curious, do your research, meet people, network with people. I'm just trying to figure out now, there are certain things you said you replicate when you start. You replicate in a different country.
Yes.
Now, I'm talking about now structures. What are some of the basic structures that a business that is looking to be global must have?
So I think maybe a key thing is around your core products, how you deliver them. So first, the product itself or the service has to be very good.
Okay.
And then how you deliver it to the customer also has to be figured out, because a product is not just a product. How you deliver it, how the customer receives it, you know, how it has an impact for them, all that matters. And so I think it's very important to ensure that the delivery mechanisms around your core product. So for us, it's this building of the community of experts. We've had to, over 6 years, think through how how do we advertise to attract the best expert in an area when it falls vacant? What criteria do we use to vet them and ensure that they are good enough to fit into our system? How do we onboard them? How do we get them up and going so that they're getting value when they join our system? So all those are now things that we've kind of built some kind of documentation in terms of how we go through it step by step. So when we get new partners in other countries, that's where we start from. We're like, this is how we do it in Kenya, but we might need to customize certain aspects for how you guys work in your country. So, but we're like, this is where we start from. So they'll use that criteria and basically go through the same process when they're looking for
the way
experts.
it looks in Kenya. Like, for example, Kenya, I know you have physical locations where these experts are located. So is that what also you're replicating in other countries?
So some countries, some of our partners have physical spaces, some do not. But also, I think it's important when I say to do experiments at scale, I need to give a qualifier. Make sure those experiments are not the kind, if they go wrong, they're going to drag you down. Like, make sure they're affordable. So one of the things we decided is we're going to start virtual. The most important thing is we find the partner and we're able to find the experts. So certain locations are virtual, others are physical. But the key thing is, can we find that that neutral central partner who already works in the entrepreneur ecosystem? And then is their network good enough to bring us the lawyer, the accountant, the HR, the marketer, and that kind of thing? There are 10 key areas we usually look at, like legal, accounting, and HR are like the core. And then we look for the others. So as long as we get to say a minimum of 8 to 10, we can get started, and then the others will come as we go along. So that's how we started in many locations. And then we learn from it once we start in terms of how easy or how hard is it to get it from even the network of people we've initially selected. And you'll find that they also know other people, so they'll recommend other people to join. They'll introduce the concept to other people. They'll talk about it as they're going about their work. And they'll uncover opportunities as that happens. And so we have varying numbers in every country. I think the highest have 13, which could be Ethiopia and South Africa. The others have maybe an average of 8. Some have 5. But once we just get a critical mass of the core ones, we get going. And then we figure it out as we go along and just grow step by step. So we don't wait to have everything perfect. And then once we figure that the relationships amongst our lead and the experts is seemingly working, then we can start to look for, is there a co-working space that maybe they can act as our office and that kind of thing? Or is there an incubator accelerator that can act as a partner, like that's happening in London as we speak? Some of the people were already in the space, so they had a physical hub, so we just say, can we start there? And usually it's a plus for them, because when the experts come in and they're paying, it's going to be revenue for them, extra revenue for them, and make them more stable. So we do have a value proposition towards the enterprise support organization owner, but also the experts, that when they come into the pool, and then we'll put them on our website, and then now have access to a global network of being, people looking for them through our platforms and that kind of thing. But also internally, if our experts are doing something in another country, they try and work through our network to find that. So everything feeds into everything in a sense. But I think the most important is just getting started. There are countries we've gone to where we found experts that don't exist in Kenya. Like, it's a profession that's fully fledged in that country. Like in the US, we've come across an e-commerce expert. All they do is help businesses go online onto Shopify or Amazon or what. They even have a warehouse where if you want to store your products and that kind of thing is. So we come across interesting things, and then at that point you start to think, wait, is there an opportunity for an e-commerce expert back here in Kenya and that kind of thing? So there are a lot of interesting things we learn from the different countries that end up, getting us thinking twice about what we've done in other countries and whether it's an opportunity.
So along the lines of standardization, one thing we struggle with as businessmen, in any businessman, is things along pricing. Because pricing, money, and all that. For example, now, if I'm thinking globally, how do I ensure my pricing is global? You know what I'm trying to say? Because over here we are stuck in price war against each other. But if I'm positioning myself globally, how do I go about that?
So I think this is where it's very important that your local partner be from the industry and understand certain nuances about the industry. Because you'd find like when we've gone into the US, we could be thinking of pricing a certain way. Like in the US, we could be thinking $100 or $200 is a lot of money. But our experts in the US charge $400 an hour, for their services. So it tells you that the spending power in that market is very different from Kenya. And so this is where it takes like working with our local partner to try and figure out what kind of introductory pricing would work in the US, which is like a figure that, they would not even think about and that kind of thing. And so you find out it's actually a lot higher than here because it's just a very different economy. Their GDP per capita is it 70,000 or something compared to, is it 3,600 here in Kenya?
Wow.
Which tells you that's the amount of money people have individually to spend. And that's why you find they are a huge consumer economy. That's why you find businesses take off very easily there because people have extra money to just test something and spend. Corporates have even so much more money. So, I mean, it's a very different economy compared to us. In the UK, almost similar, and you find a city like London has 14 million people, high spending power. They're a global center for the financial and insurance industry and all sorts of things. So one of the big things we're beginning to see is that in London, if you advertise an event, so many people show up just because there's so many people
can afford it
and they're available and they pay to attend. If it is South Africa, there are different dynamics there. The government has a lot of support for the enterprise support space. There's actually a fund where big companies have to pay into. And that fund has just been accumulating year on year. So you find there's a lot of government funds towards that. In the UK and US, you also find there's a lot of government funds towards supporting entrepreneurs. Are not difficult to get here, to get something from government. Like government for us is a target market in those countries. In Kenya, it's not. So you just have to be sensitive to those differences. But I think your local partner is an anchor in helping you localize the knowledge of how this is how it could go. This is the pricing we can start with. This is what I've been doing in the past. So if we start around something like this, it'll, we'll get a foot in the door. This is the kind of spending corporates spend without even approval. So if we put a proposal at this level, it will be, easily acceptable. So those kinds of things. So we are always leaning on our local partners who are part of the industry countries to kind of guide how we go about establishing our strategy.
Then final thought in terms of, just leading up to this. The capital.
Yes.
How do you get the capital? You've been speaking about, going places, meeting people, setting up things. How are you getting money for this? How do you raise capital for this thing?
So I think it's interesting because different partners we have in different countries are willing to share risk to different levels of their comfort. There are some who are like, I like the concept so much. I'm going to provide the space and this, and you guys can, bring in the rest. There are countries where because, for some reason, maybe we're the ones who went in first, there'd be a high expectation of us supporting that particular office to take off. So it's been varying. We also have different structures in different countries. There are countries where we have almost equal co-ownership with the local partners. There are countries where we have more. There are countries where maybe the local partner is taking a bigger risk on how it's set up because they really want, to get it up and running. So we've used different models. There are countries where we've gone in and registered a business together with a local partner. So it's a sandbox entity, locally registered. There are places where we are doing license agreements, and there are other places where we're just doing revenue share agreements between Sandbox International and the local company. So they are our local agent and representative and everything Sandbox, but almost no upfront capital in terms of how we've gotten started. So we've tried to use as least capital intensive methodology. That's why we're not doing physical spaces in the other countries. Either we ride off an existing one as, because you could invest a lot of money, then it doesn't work out. And that money has now gone down the drain. So we've tried as much as possible to use methods that is a shared risk with the local partner as much as possible. And then now we get going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. there's so much that I know you have to share.
Yes.
But there's something that you're going to release soon.
Yes.
There's something that we are really looking forward to, and it's your first book.
Yes.
Please tell us the title of this book. I think you brought a copy.
I brought a copy.
Maybe just show the camera
Actually,
what to expect.
This is probably the first place I'm showing it in public.
Man. Thank you so much.
So the release
We are
has happened
honored.
on your podcast. So this is a book. It's called The Enterprise Jungle. It is something I've been working on for quite a number of years.
Okay.
And it basically talks about what we've been talking about. If you're going to build a great company, what are the things you need to do at the different stages? So it tracks the journey of an entrepreneur from being a startup. What do you do when you just have the idea and you want to go to market? What are the things you do at the beginning to get customers when you don't have a track record? How do you build confidence of, customers in your product? And then when, it starts to get traction, how do you price at the beginning? How do you market? How do you get people testing your product? If it's successful, what do you do at the growth stage? How do you begin to recruit the right people, put in the right systems and processes for growth and scale? What are those systems?
Wow.
And then as you grow and scale also into different countries, what do you look for in the different environments you're going into? So it tracks the journey all the way to when you exit the business, if you choose to, at the end, or how you hand over, maybe to family or to people who want to buy a business off you. So this is just basically the book I wish I had when I was starting business, because we made a lot of mistakes. But after that, I coached a lot of businesses and I began to see a lot of patterns, both locally and internationally. And so it's probably the kind of unique book that people, especially in emerging markets, because if you're to look at, say, the Silicon Valley story or the European and Chinese story, they have very different realities to what we have, say, in Africa, Asia, South America type of stuff, where you have constrained capital. You don't have venture capital that is as much as is in some of those environments. So this talks about that entrepreneurship journey through bootstrapping and, the African or, say, emerging markets reality. A lot of the concepts will also be relevant because, like I said, now we are doing business even in developed markets and we're able to see some of the things are just the same. It's just that maybe they have access to capital and whatever a bit easier. But a lot of the behaviors we see amongst what the entrepreneurs did tends to be the same. So I talk about everything. So it is the manual. They're calling it the Entrepreneur's Navigation Toolkit. So it is kind of like a manual of what to do at every stage. I write it in plain English, not management jargon. If I introduce a management topic, I break it down and just explain it. So my hope is that your average entrepreneur out there, maybe who's not even able to afford a consultant or something, can learn a lot of the things they can do in their books, in their companies from this book.
Wow.
Yeah, so looking forward to launching it probably in the next month or so.
Next month or so.
Yeah, but it should be out there, and a lot of the answers are here.
Wow.
Yeah.
From 20 years of experience,
yes,
there's a lot that is that of value.
There's a lot I talk about from my own experience as well, which is that, I've done this practically. I've not just researched and put a book. So a lot of also from my personal experience, but also from a lot of the people I've coached and seen their businesses grow. And also my experience scaling a global business and the things to look out for in those different environments. So I've been able to put all that in here. Yeah.
Wow. I can't wait for their launch.
I know.
I can't wait for their launch. I'll be getting my copy there as well, because I'm in this journey and I want to get to that level where we are not just conquering our homestead, but we are.
The world is definitely our playing field.
The internet has made the world flat.
Exactly.
So the market is
there's nowhere that's not reachable. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing so much.
Yes.
Sharing so much. I think I have picked so much from you in terms of, my thinking, because I'm also now going to challenge my thinking a bit in terms of, okay, where am I at now and where do I want to go and what do I need to start doing different? Because indeed, from hearing your story, it's about intentionality. It's not about just winging it and hoping you go global.
Yes. Yeah, you have to be very
you have to be very deliberate about every move, every step that you make.
Yeah.
And it has to be calculated, and don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. Yes, do not. It'll happen a lot. You get used to it over time. Yeah.
I don't like that sound. Get used to it. It's painful.
It's necessary at every stage. It's painful, but you learn. I think you learn how to now make mistakes you can afford, and then learn quickly from it, cut off something quickly if it's not working out. Like, you really just get better at it. So you compound the results of the knowledge that you gain as you grow.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Joram.
Thank you for inviting me.
It was nice having you.
Yeah.
So there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who have been with us throughout this whole episode, I hope you have picked a number of gems that have been dropped here. The Enterprise Jungle is coming out in the next month or so. We should be having a copy. Make sure you get your copy, because I know all of us were not meant to just to get into business to pay our bills, but to have a bigger purpose. There must be a bigger goal for us. Let's solve problems at an international level, not just local level.
Yes.
So at the end, all we say is I hope you have subscribed to this channel so that you get notifications for even more episodes that are coming of value to you. As at the end, my name is Chris Fanyalwal, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.